The myth of little me according to YouTube. Take 2. Oh, great. My Yeti crapped out, and now I've got to use the microphone in the pooter. Sorry, folks. But they found another way to mess it up, and I've got to try this whole thing again. Wow! I had a fantastic dream last night, exploring the creative multiverse of weird, expansive realms of the other world in dreams. And then I woke up to this. Meanwhile, here I am, still on YouTube, in a very controlled, isolated, strained, little tiny place I call an online police mirrored room, pushed off to the side. A disabled dude from a Freemason family pushed off even most of my subscribers' feeds, stuck for every video in YouTube jail, it seems. I'm such a reckless, radical truth teller, or SEO hell, where I'll be lucky to get 20 views after I did guerrilla marketing to get my 150 subscribers. For a long while I accepted it. I asked if Yahweh is a narcissist predator entity from this campsite, and all of a sudden my hundreds of views were down to almost none. I exposed the Convoy 1984 Filthium medical mafia scams, shite, and even just a year ago I posed the question, did Rockefeller get evil ET help in creating the forced compulsory 12th grade school system? And YouTube timestamped that. They timestamped that as the point, as the reason why they deleted the video and gave me a warning. They don't want me to say that. Now, if I was a professional, it'd be different. I filled up at least 15 of these notebooks with words and read them. I worked really hard on this with radical transparency, brutal honesty, and shared and gave a lot of healing, horrible, wonderful, and painful gnosis for nearly 600 videos. And yet, the AI algorithm, the corporate executives, and our 150 CIA and NSA agency censors do not care. They'll say they don't want this kind of content, especially from a sick boy man who is not a capitalist. According to them, it seems I deserve no growth, just a tiny little audience, but more blocks, just a couple of views, no matter what, for the vast majority of my work. And reflection, ironically, since they did a wonderful and horrific good deed in teaching and allowing all of us to learn about narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, and despite all I've done, YouTube still lets me be here, but vehemently pretends I don't and cannot exist socially. I'm unworthy of my audience. Why this strong contradiction? Is it because YouTube itself is a massive corporate agency run narcissist behemoth? I am courted to a big bad monopoly. In making content here, I am invisible because of this. Of course, the search engine is a forced competition a massive popularity contest And I'm going to have to use my built-in cheap pooter mic for this. Because for some reason, the Yeti didn't work. And now I got to do this twice. Isn't the fucking Microsoft Copilot good at fucking things up? And of course, I still love YouTube. Like a battered wife of a famous, brilliant celebrity. I think of a few movies from my childhood. Married to the Mob and Sleeping with the Enemy. For me, just putting effort into this is similar to those movies. For better or worse. Also, when it comes to doing what I love, I never give up. I'm the kind of person who'd marry their work. Marry my perception as a self-healer. Marry my one-man band. Marry my channel. But I didn't pretend to be what they wanted. I ignored SEO. I didn't team up. I wasn't often pretty, presentable, or capitalizable in their greedy eyes. In short, I have to accept, ironically, unless YouTube somehow miraculously changes, or I become a social butterfly or a capitalist. This is a trauma-bonded, narcissistic relationship, whether I like it or not. I started this channel in 2021. I wanted to help heal the world by telling the brutal and beautiful truths that I have learned, about the experiment, about healing, about shamanism, Buddhism, Gnosticism, the Matrix, what's really going on, getting free. I have improved myself in some ways. I recently quit cannabis to heal my dreams and afterlife, to learn lucid dreaming, remote viewing, and to get ready to get out of here. I have grown spiritually on occasion. I have used YouTube to learn. Out of a whole nother video, hours and hours I've spent every day in YouTube addiction to trying to learn from others. It occasionally does work. And I have used YouTube to learn to heal and get more aware in all kinds of ways by listening to and watching videos. Practicing what I've learned, like Dr. Cruz's recommendation of early AM sunbathing, getting sun before 10 a.m. to heal the mitochondria to a great effect. And unfortunately, I didn't follow his lead in recognizing that it was stupid to have my own channel. And, he just appears on other people's channels and interviews because he doesn't want his channel to be deleted or hidden by the search engine. In some ways, I've become a better version of myself. But it never seemed to care. It never gave me another chance after my first mistake, it seems to me. Really? Why? Experience has shown me with individuals in 3D flesh suit life that a narcissist or someone high on the scale of NPD will never forgive you particularly if you don't get rich. If you become wealthy, they might forgive you. Narcissists view everything as transactional. To YouTube, both executives, censors, and AI algorithms, money is what matters. What about those dozens of old men channels and several young person channels that sprung up last year, like Outrage Outcast? They can do a great job telling the truth, but also self-censoring. Usually, They are self-possessed narcissists, so they can fit in. Google YouTube is still invested for some reason in keeping this channel uber small and insists in keeping me small, disabled, and turned off. Why? You know, all those channels that they let of people just recording videos of themselves telling their feelings, I feel was also to balance the hundreds of AI-generated channels. What does their insisting that this channel stay so hidden say about them? Do I need to get this tooth fixed to have an audience? Why, in doing this, am I still a hermit over 3 years in? Sure, I'll admit where I made mistakes and improve, and maybe I need to admit that more. Maybe I need to get more radically honest about myself. And this video is in part what they wanted me to make, a warning to those of you who think it's a good idea to record yourself telling the truth, who are brutally and radically honest. Really, I am not even a collapsed narcissist, as much as that's what the Matrix tried to turn me into. In the end of this flesh suit's existence, I will transcend all of that. But YouTube seems to like me staying a small, collapsed, whining, egotistical, covert, narcissist, collapsed hero. Why? So it can discourage me to the point of quitting. If I don't quit, but if I don't let go of my big YouTube addiction, including posting to an online jail interrogation room, basically, if, they can create the impression that no one watched it. Make no mistake, I'm married to the YouTube mob. I'm married to the Google, YouTube, big boy tech mafia. And if I don't give it up, and if I don't give it what it wants with a tight lip, like never talking about stuff like this, I'll stay a nobody. Right? Loose lips sink ships, the mob meme said. Even if I can self-censor and not break any community guidelines, if I write notes that can free your mind outside the color of the police state law of censorship, it doesn't matter. After 580 or so videos, I found I had one devout subscriber. My biggest fan, he called himself, the Anonymous Mega Man, who I did mistake for a troll, honestly, in the beginning when he threw some hurling insults in the chat comment section. I'm like, well, they're going to let this guy on and no one else, huh? Writing a lot of deep and expansive, beautiful and interesting comments on my videos since then, over the however long that's been, a couple months or weeks. Finally, what I wanted, what I've been wanting since the Yahweh series, a conversation, a healing conversation on my channel. The cliche was true. It was worth doing this to help one person. And he tried to make it mutually awakening. But now, Alphabet or Google YouTube can't have it. He put 3 comments on a video recently, and it says 3 comments, but you can't see them. They're hidden, so no one can read them. During this same phase of exiting the shared fantasy of me high on ganja alchemy every day, I also finally have begun to accept 2 things that Professor Sam Vaknin said were not exaggerations. Number 1, There is no social mobility at all in the U.S. And, if the perception is that I am a disabled guy from a campsite, even though might be that they allow this channel to exist because I'm from a Freemason family, it's not going to grow because I have to be perceived as a little wild, houseless dude. And that nearly all YouTubers, especially those who talk about narcissism or super empaths, are narcissists themselves or deeply disturbed psychopaths that are probably very high on the scale of NPD. And yes, I can corroborate this with many occasions of trying to communicate with some of these folks that seem to be interested in the same things as me and seem to be really passionate about these topics. But they could never reciprocate my email or my comments. I could say powerful things in their chat rooms, and a few would seem to appreciate it, but mutual respect, collaboration, or sharing audiences, nah. Especially as it is forbidden in the guidelines, or considered spamming, so that it was never possible. Now, just like Rumble, whose biggest financial backing was from Donald J. Trump and Peter Thiel, YouTube allows me a grand total of no conversations in the comments section. I might get a nice benign thank you every 30 videos, but no conversations in my comments section allowed. I'm too much of a radical truth teller. We can't have that. Or devout community engagement, it seems. When I complained in the description on my social rant on Rumble last week, or the week before, stating the only comments I've ever gotten on my Rumble channel were people trying to get me to pay them to be my Rumble middleman and boost the views. The crazy Rumble team emailed me saying, basically, let's be friends. If you don't like us deleting all your comments, pay us for better search results. Pay us and join our controlled opposition mob, and we'll consider letting you have your comments and not deleting every single one. Be our friend, and you can have a comment section. Thanks, but no thanks. In short, I'm sick of this being my video talk making experience. The DS embedded in these platforms finally have achieved their sick, pathological wish for me here. To get the little me to quit altogether. Did the two human operating systems talk really violate YouTube guidelines? No, they just don't want to promote those truths from a campsite particularly. I was amazed when they allowed Chuck Swindoll Jr.'s video, Khazarian Mafia, the God Eaters, to reach over 1 million views. Like, wow, they really allowed that? Well, again, as Professor Vacton stated, it's related to the fact that he's a married Gemini sun sign, the son of a famous Christian pastor who wrote hundreds of books. From higher in the USA social hierarchy. Then they let him do a sequel, Khazarian Mafia, The God Eaters Part 2. But soon, the day Part 3 came out, I remember I was listening to it, and then I looked back and I couldn't finish it because they deleted it. And they warned him, I think they actually called him and told him if he kept doing this kind of content, he'd have his channel taken down. Like any narcissist, there are no rules in reality when it comes to alphabet. Only arbitrary arrangements that serve them. Only arbitrary arrangements that suit them. The YouTube guidelines are different depending on who you is. Or should I say, deep ending. Now, Chuck can have a delusional, fantastic, narcissistic hero aspect show up in the mostly, but not totally healed, dark or shadow twin of the Gemini zodiac psychological archetype, which is just simply like people in the hundreds and hundreds of chats, comments he gets on his weekly live stream when somebody says that he saved their life. He actually breaks out. He's actually broken out into tears a few times and said, "Oh, thank you. That's why we do this." I mean, his shadow twin isn't evil, but it's definitely having that narcissistic hero aspect. And that makes me cringe heavily when I see him do that. But of course, the agency CIA guys at YouTube love that. But me, still encouraging mental freedom and ending slavery from a campsite. How dare I remain so steadfast and socially retarded? They seem to ask. I don't like this marriage to a search engine that loves to. This marriage to search engine invisibility in this online mafia. I won't back down. And they love me just enough to not delete this entire channel. So here I am, saying the radical truth about what it's like in this video to the very few. Laura Eisenhower had her entire channel permanently deleted several years ago. Just last year. Google YouTube just decided to miraculously let her back on, like David Icke and Dr. Eric Berg. Guess they really needed the money. They are all three uber popular, sell books, and are professionals who make lots of money. Or at least enough money to be worth it to have their channel back up. Okay, they can come back. But I must remain totally irrelevant. So I quit. So that I quit. I could list a dozen channels that were great channels as far as healing wisdom and telling the truth and information, or even astrology, or even psychology. Even channels that were made by people with degrees in psychology who said too many uncomfortable things. I mean, channels that were way better on quality than the videos I make, like they had all the graphics and the animation, or even better quality information in some cases, that they have successfully scared off from continuing. They didn't have a check for deadly illness. They didn't have me to do their brilliant work, to be hated and ignored by the capitalist monster YouTube. To me, all hierarchies are pathetic and inverted, even the ones I try to work in. But this one is amongst the ugliest and smelliest. So yeah, it's love/loathe. Look at the top. Go to the library with a guest pass, or go incognito mode on your computer and go to YouTube. And if they allow you to, you know, give you an anonymous or a public front page without any customization, look at the top and you'll find, of course, Mr. Beast, that pretty penguin, channel name Penguin something idiot. This good looking young man with long, beautiful hair who's stoned out of his mind, who just basically says nothing but about whatever the trending topic or drama of the moment is in a very drugged out voice. In the past, they had Nick Avocado, mukbangs. The less than an hour I've ever spent looking into this, probably a half hour, was too much of a waste of an hour for me. They are abject, filthy trash from a Gnostic or wisdom perspective. But the Google YouTube SEO loves vapid, shallow clickbait or pretty trash. In the realms of truth, it loves the fluffy bunnies, unicorns, and rainbows of the New Cage movement, UFO liars and grifters, Chinese water torture style disclosure where they tell you a tiny bit in a beautiful package. And Tony Sayers, though he started a decade ago and sells books and was or is kind of cute, if that's a prerequisite, he must remain at the 20,000 subscribers limit for honest truth tellers, even if they have books for sale. Specifically, those truth tellers that expose these New Cage grifters and liars. Dr. Kim once said that her friends that were CIA guys at YouTube told her that, nobody who is a radical truth teller gets above 30,000 subscribers. Of course, John Nolan, Inspired Channel, glitched that figure with his good-natured handsomeness, mastery of PowerPoint presentations, and clickbait thumbnails, and capitalistic expertise, and having a beautiful community. There are exceptions, a few I could list on 5 fingers at the most, like Jimmy Dore. Rob Khalil's Typical Skeptic podcast was deleted when he was around 20,000 subscribers. So now he has the Typical Skeptic Podcast 2.0. And he's almost approaching half as many subscribers as he did have. But are we being masochistic to try and work with this CIA moderated place, literally? For me, the biggest yes, perhaps, was at my greatest moment recently of horror. After nearly a month without ganja, my benign intestinal tumors had latched on to the spike proteins to the point that, unfortunately, after several years of nattokinase, were still looming in my body, and they latched onto them to the point where getting up or turning would give me extreme back pain. Not one to go to the white coat poison dealers to get, the official M.M. horrible louche extraction, slow death process. I made the dumb and self-exploitative decision to record a desperate, painful rant. As the pain wouldn't let me sleep after a couple hours of rest, and then while I was kind of in and out of the dream state at 3 a.m., I was getting attacked by archons. This most, collapsed narcissist exploitative rant I've ever made um, was really just because I wanted someone to give me some compassion. All I wanted was a friend to listen and give me a couple of words, maybe an email of several words of compassion and empathy. I was yelling and going off a little. I ranted and I spoke about my biggest flaws. It was pretty overwhelming, probably, I'll admit, and of course the not totally healed, collapsed narcissist in my subconscious was showing its ugly head. For sure. Or you could say, in a way, it was very confessional. But I simply felt that I needed one friend, one person, one person to give me sympathy or show care. And listening to it again, I put it on private and then emailed it only to Arkeem Ra and Joshua S. John. And only them. Then I deleted it from my channel a day or two later. The view count said 3 views, but no response. Reaching out to 2 people I was pretty sure, would be able to give me a little compassion. It seemed I was ghosted. And I did, and interestingly enough, I feel the archons were trying to get me to go back into my addiction to cannabis and codependency with ganja. And I did go into my old routine, which of course with the bubble hash and the tincture was way too much. And after almost a month or whatever without, and it's weird. I actually had the feelings of paranoia and fear and nervousness that I really hadn't felt from cannabis in decades. So I thought was interesting, and besides this codependency factor and addiction, I really hadn't experienced that negative side of it in so long. It was kind of amazed me that it would, as clear as I am about the archons, that it would allow me to. I'm not saying I was afraid, but I felt the cannabis producing that. Like, wow, maybe what some people say is true, that my frequency is too high to vibe with weed anymore. But it is a brilliant and a very healing plant, and it did tell me or remind me, well, all you need to do is, you don't need me. All you need to do is go back to taking the nattokinase for that pain. And of course, I went and got a bottle of nattokinase, and that pain started subsiding immediately. In several days, it's almost gone. But when I emailed that video, the return of the narcissist hero, with probably too many words of my basic story, to Darren McGee, a YouTube psychologist, and then I waited for a week and got no response, I, perhaps quite naively, politely went off on one of his videos in a comment. His response was only a question mark, just a question mark. So these scenarios made me think. Did Joshua and Arkeem really ghost me? I mean, that upset rant probably was overwhelming. And they're in their mid-30s, and that generation that pathetically thinks ghosting is okay. So it's a possibility they did. Or was it Google's pure hatred and control freak cruelty in policy that, they didn't want to send that video to them because it was upsetting. Was it that Google or Gmail did not send those emails with those videos? Did Google purposefully deny me a tiny bit of empathy in my darkest hour in recent years when I really needed simply a couple of loving words from a friend? Would Google do that? Are they that sadistic under the guise of non-harm? That much of a narcissistic personality disordered corporation, the same Behemoth corporation that has exposed the NPD epidemic in this realm. Does Google really hate me that much? I suppose I'll have no way of knowing, since I can't open the curtain and discuss it with the men who are Wizards of Oz in the front end. I know that they're forcing me to admit, if I want to have any kind of an audience, participate in conversations on my own channel, or receive, at this point, any comments, it seems like I'll have to change this channel into a team effort, collaborate with a partner, or do interviews. YouTube was originally born in February, I think 2003, an Aquarius sun sign. But just 20 months later, when Google bought it and brought in the 150 CIA and NSA sensors, it became a Libra sun sign. And you know, a corporate Libra, man, you say something unkosher, you're uncool forever, right? Google, who once in the early years had a motto, "Be good, Google," seems to have, in its massive monopoly, long forgotten this and be open and willing and able to be the greatest censoring and socially cruel being, more open to doing tons of invisible evil and harm, like all the channels it deleted the last few years, or in my case, unattempted massive loose extraction at my darkest moment. That's if I didn't get ghosted. Instead of simply allowing me to communicate with one or two one friend and one acquaintance. Or did I get ghosted? Do you hear me, Joshua? Is this open hostility why you quit uploading YouTube videos? There's a video titled "The Video YouTube Really Doesn't Want You to Watch," which I recommend if you want to go further in learning about how strong of a backbone YouTube has. It flat out sucks to stay in a trauma bond with a massive platform that insists that basically I must not be allowed to exist socially while I feed it so much just to stay small. Yes, I have, and I still love it here on YouTube, even now. But finally, I have to admit and be radically honest about this after 3.5 years of making lots of videos, that similar to the 3.5 years that I live in the house with an overt narcissist, psychopath, predator, really high on the scale of NPD to the point of possession, that, you know, If it was possible to diagnose a big behemoth corporation with NPD, they would certainly be on that diagnosis. And I've learned that YouTube community guidelines are absolutely arbitrary. What is the value in reasoning? What is the intent? And what is the point of the myth of the little me, Trey Smith, accorded to Google YouTube if I don't change my tactics? To stay a little masochistic nobody in a sea of narcissist grifters and seedy capitalists, to give every other person out there considering starting a YouTube channel discussing the radical truth and healing and freedom, to intimidate them out of it, to scare them out of it. So fun. What are the myths of your relationship with this horrible and wonderful place called YouTube? And can you face them?